What is up, everybody? Welcome to episode 80 of Into the Necrosphere. My guest on today's installment of the podcast is a death metal icon, Dallas Toler-Wade, formerly of Niall, now blazing his own path in NARCOTIC WASTELAND. And he was here to talk about the band, his time in Niall, how he steps up his proficiency as one of the greatest guitarists on the face of the earth, and a whole lot more. So that is going to be coming your way very shortly. First up, however, Bourn Ultra are a black metal band out of Los Angeles. I first mentioned them on Into the Necrosphere episode 62, which featured the great John Jarvis of Scour. They are back with a killer new EP called Skull Throne Inheritor, which I believe was mixed and mastered by another Into the Necrosphere alumni, Charles Elliott of Abysmal Dawn. I think that this is absolutely killer, and Bourn Ultra are about to make history by being the first ever two-time recipient of Into the Necrosphere Demo of the Week honors. So this is Bourn Ultra with a track called Inheritor. Bourn Ultra with Inheritor off an awesome EP called Skull Throne Inheritor. Two-time Demo of the Week honors recipients. And seriously, man, Season of Mist, Apocalyptic Witchcraft, Debo Morty, Van Records. Somebody needs to sign these guys because this is absolutely awesome. I described them back on episode 62 as the way Inquisition would sound like, or would have sounded like on their last record if they hadn't turned into wimps. And I stand by it. So great work from the guys there. And if you want to join them in the hallowed halls of the Into the Necrosphere Demo of the Week fame. And by the way, if you can hear the noise off camera, that's because my dog is currently digging up the couch cushions. So I'm not sure what she's looking for. But anyway, if you want to join the Into the Necrosphere Demo of the Week alumni, then send me your best work to intothenecrosphere@gmail.com. And if I like what I hear, I will feature it on the show. And if I really like what I hear, you will be joining a list of guests that include people like Jason Mendonça of Akakaka, Alex von Mailenvolt of Ruins of Beverast, Ghoul of Mayhem, and also the Zoom masturbator, David Ellefson of Megadeth. So send me some of your best stuff, and yeah, like I said, I'd love to hear what it is that you can do. Also, if you've not yet subscribed to the show on the various podcasting platforms upon which it is hosted every single Tuesday for free, then make sure that you do so. The show is available on YouTube, Stitcher, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, various other formats. If your favorite podcast streaming service doesn't have it, then that's because it sucks. I am also going to be doing some reviews later on in the show, so stick around. The new Borgne as well as the new Cold Cell, both absolutely awesome albums. And then I'm also going to be talking about some news. So if you want to hear me pick through some metal news headlines, talk some trash, and just basically tell you all the things that you need to know so that you don't have to bother reading any of the websites yourself, then stick around to the very end of the podcast. Also, remember to follow the show on social media. I'm on Twitter at iNecrosphere, at Instagram at Into the Necrosphere, and also Facebook. And if you want to pick yourself out an Into the Necrosphere hoodie or t-shirt, then head over to the Into the Necrosphere's Teespring store and pick yourself up a bit of cult merchandise today. And yeah, if you do wear it on social media, you tag me, then who knows, I might hit you up and send you a little gift by way of thanks. I also want to say thank you very, very much for the ongoing support of the show. You guys, again, seem to really like the conversation that I had with Andrew of Code last week. That subscriber count on YouTube is ticking up. I think at last check, I was about 750, and last month I had the highest downloads that I've had for the podcast since I got started. So just over 8,000 downloads across the course of a month, which for me is fucking awesome. I mean, it's not Joe Rogan numbers, but the higher those numbers get, the easier it is for me to get guests. And speaking of which, I have got quite the lineup over the next couple of weeks. So I am talking to Gavin, the organizer of the Damnation Festival, later this week. So he'll probably be next week's episode. One of the gentlemen from Vride, I'm in the process of busy lining up for an interview. John Wiederhorn, multi-book author and metal legend, will be on the show as well. And then I recently watched, and you'll hear me talk about it on the Dallas interview, a fucking brilliant documentary called Sons of Sam. And as soon as I kind of finished watching it, I got the idea to reach out to Mike from Tombs to see whether he'd seen it, because I know he's into similar stuff. And we have decided that we're going to do a show dedicated, probably not entirely to, but at least in part to that Sons of Sam documentary. So he'll be on pretty soon as well. And then, of course, I still need to reschedule the interview that I had booked with Chris Canella of Deicide. So lots of great stuff coming your way as we march on to episode 100, including the conversation that is about to drop right now. Apologies in advance for some of the technical gremlins that crept in, but I'm pretty sure you guys are going to enjoy it all the same. This is Dallas Toler-Wade of Narcotic Wasteland. man. First of all, thanks very much for taking the time to talk to me. I know you're a busy guy, and I'll try not to keep you for too long. But I guess the first and most obvious question that I have to ask everybody on calls nowadays are, how are you doing generally? How's the lockdown? How has the pandemic affected you over the last kind of 15, however long months this whole sordid affair has been going on?
Yeah, I mean, it was a little scary. I think the first thing that probably affected me a little bit was before the whole mask mandate, I was already like holding my breath when I went into the gas station.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like just trying not to touch anything. But as far as just the only thing I honestly really missed or changed was being able to either play concerts or attend concerts. Because I'm already kind of a recluse anyways. I mean, I work, I play guitar and some video games on the weekend, maybe hang out with some friends. Not very low key. I'm very much just at the house. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm either at work or I'm at home anyways. The thing that I did really start to get to me and grind on me was not being able to go see a show or play a show. Since things have started to pick back up, I'm going to do both.
Well, I was about to say, you guys just played your first show a couple of days ago, right?
Yeah, first show since November of 2019.
I saw some footage of that. Firstly, how was it to be back playing? But I would also ask how was it kind of playing to an audience where everybody is standing, a meter apart. There's none of the craziness that I would imagine you're used to.
It was great, man. Actually, the first show was indoors, and there were tables, and everybody just kind of hung out at the table, and it was fun. Everybody was hanging out, having a couple of beers or whatever, and cheering it on, between the songs, and ultimately they were listening, which was very good. And the second show was actually outdoors. And that was, the restrictions weren't as bad. It's like there wasn't like crazy, like full on contact, like mosh pitting or anything. But, it was pretty well attended and people were banging their heads and stuff. And, but everybody was respectful of everybody's space. And, somebody walked up to me and asked me, it was like, do you mind that I'm not wearing a mask? I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot that I even had mine on, but I had mine on.
Yeah.
And I was like, whatever. I don't give a shit.
I thought you were about to say, how dare you, dirty throw out. It's like, by the way, you mentioned masks a couple of times. I was, just as you were saying that, I was reflecting on how weird it felt to me the first time I walked out and saw people queuing up at the supermarket with their mask. It was like the most, I definitely think March of last year, when everything kind of became very real and it was like, okay, everyone masks on, you have to queue at the supermarket, no one is allowed to do anything, or everything has to shut down, outside the bare essentials. I felt like that was the single most surreal thing that has ever happened to me in my lifetime.
It is. I remember, talking to my mom, and I was like, did you ever experience anything like this? She was like, no, never. This is totally new territory for everybody. It's been a serious wake up call, I think, hopefully, for people just not to be a filthy ass. You know what I mean? Just clean up. Yeah. I mean, human beings are gross, man.
Yeah.
We're gross. We excrete fluid out of just about every fucking thing. And, we get these viruses and we get each other sick. And I mean, this one's a super deadly one, or can be a super deadly one. I've had close friends and coworkers I've been in close proximity of it, and I was very sick last March before all this happened. I don't know if it's COVID or not. I know that it put me down for about 2 days.
Yeah.
And I had a bad cough. I had all the symptoms. I'm not saying that I had it, but all my coworkers, or about 3 or 4 of my coworkers had it. You know what I mean? Like, I've been exposed to it.
Did it affect your day job at all?
Yes, actually, we closed our storefront. So if you needed to pick up something, you had to go to the back. And basically you had to call it in.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, and then, you know, after about I'd say probably about 6 months of that, they opened the store back up. But we got hand sanitizers, and, you know, you got like mask wearing, and please wear a mask. Of course, none of those dudes wear a mask. I'm in South Carolina. They don't wear freaking masks here.
Is it as loose as Florida, as far as people just not giving a shit, or is there a little more temperance?
I wouldn't know about Florida, although I guess if you're bringing it up, then I guess that they were pretty bad about it too.
Oh, well, did you see that Deerside show that they played about 2 weeks ago? I mean, that was like full on old school. People were shoved up against each other. There was, I wouldn't say like full on pits, but I mean, it was, you know, it was pretty gnarly.
The herd immunity tour.
Oh yeah.
Shit.
So you know, one thing I was thinking, actually, having, you know, seeing you guys playing and kind of seeing, and actually having seen clips of a couple of other bands playing recently, I almost feel like sometimes with how old I see the audience in the scene getting, like on the average age, you see young people turn up, but it's definitely not like it used to be when I was my 20s. I almost feel like I feel like this new way of doing things kind of suits the audience better, because you know, as you get older, you get a bit more cranky about people being around you, and like, you know, I need my space here. I was talking to somebody a little while back about, you know, you used to always see it at some of the older band shows like Slayer. You know, there would be like the old guard who kind of likes their space, and this young kid who, you know, gets just goes a little stray of the mosh pit, and then normally catches a bit of collateral damage.
Yeah. You know, I had to retire from the mosh pit pretty early because I used to get hurt. And one of the times I got hurt was actually at Slayer show on the Seasons of the Abyss tour. It wasn't that bad or anything, but I was just kind of like, you know, if you screw your hand up, you're not going to be able to play. And that's why I gave up skateboarding and all that extracurriculars that I could possibly really hurt myself, you know.
How long?
And of course, that wasn't after hurting good times.
Yeah.
You know?
How long did you skate, or were you a skater for?
We used to skate around, me and buddies in my neighborhood. We did that. I mean, that was probably, you know, from 16 or, well, actually more like 14 up to maybe 18 or 19.
Yeah.
But I got some pretty good injuries, and I just gave it up.
I was just about to say, did you have any scares that kind of made you decide, look, you know, it's a roll of the dice here every time I get on this fucking thing, as to whether it's going to impact my guitar playing or not?
Yes, that was the reason why I retired it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was the best thing that ever happened to you?
Oh, I got 14 stitches in my chin, from trying to do some stupid shit on a ramp. So that was when I pretty much gave it up. I was like, all right, you know, not to mention the fact I would like to still have a nice grill when I get older.
Yeah. No, I was talking to someone about it earlier today, because their son had a massive bail on a ramp over the weekend, and I think he was pretty badly concussed and stuff like that. And I was saying to him, and I remember my mom nearly throwing up when I showed up at home one day, having thought myself very cool to be skating without my shirt, you know, going down a hill, and I ended up falling sliding down a tarmac and basically ripping off all of the skin from kind of the low spot of my back all the way up to my neck, and then having to walk at least a mile to get home with this. Like every time I had a breeze blowing, my back would just stiffen up. I'd be like, okay, all right, yeah, let's just embrace the pain and move on. But yeah, I think everyone who has skated, they have to have at least a couple of decent injury stories.
Oh yeah. Oh man, what you got was complete road rash. I bet that shower sucked.
Oh fuck! Oh no.
Oh.
The worst part was going back to school, and I mean we had it was old, I say school, I mean old school. You had to wear like a school uniform and stuff like that. So I would sit down, and my school shirt would literally be soaked through, and I mean it's not soaked through from sweat; it's blood pouring down your back. So it was it's quite an experience coming back from that. But I mean I was back on my skateboard as soon as I possibly could be. I didn't give a shit. I was never any good, which is what made me stop. But eventually, there's only so much embarrassment you can take. But
yeah, I wasn't great myself. I mean, I was getting better, but right when I started to get better was when I started to get cocky and end up, busting my face open real good sometimes. And I said, you know what? My chin will never look the same, and I quit. Yeah.
So I wanted to talk a little bit about Niall, and I'm not kind of digging for salacious gossip here, but I've always been very fascinated by your decision to leave, particularly kind of given how big the band was when you left. You kind of I feel like you sort of left the band very much at the peak of the band's powers, and I imagine that decision must have kind of weighed on you for quite a while. I mean, was it something that had built up as far as you making that decision to leave, or was there kind of one catalyst that made you feel like, okay, now is the right time to go?
I would say maybe yes to both of those. It was just time, it was just time, and I will just, the only thing I can really want to say about it is that there was just certain things about the entire aspect, whether it be business-wise or music-wise or whatever, that I want to do differently.
Yeah.
And having said that, we were lucky. We did get to, Niall is a huge band now, and it was great to be a part of all that and see all that happen for sure. And, I don't take any of those moments for granted at all. It was an amazing time, and I'm pretty sure those guys are going to be firing back up pretty soon too. We got to see those guys ripping some faces. I think I did see a flyer actually, and I think it might be for Europe, but Europe is actually going to skip out on another year. But I think they're already maybe rescheduled for something in Europe, and then maybe something later in the year here in the States. But I'm not sure about that. I did see a flyer. I did see something, But yeah, I mean, that's what I've been saying. I mean, it was just time. Yeah, I've been in the band nearly 20 years, and that's plenty of time for a person to decide if they want to continue with that. And what do they want to do differently?
Yeah.
And so I did. And, things have been great as far as, I guess, getting back to another part of your question really quick is, the band was really big and all that stuff. And it was cool to, tour and all that stuff, and which Narcotic has done some touring too. But I think what I'm trying to say is that never was really a primal or prime goal for me, to tour the world and all that stuff. I never thought that shit was going to happen, man. I don't think any of us did. It just did. It just happened. And so, I mean, that's kind of where I'm at now too. It's just the same thing. And I want to improve as a musician and as a writer and I want to dive into something and have the freedom to dive into it the way I want to do it. And that's, that's another thing. And I don't have to meet deadlines. I don't have to do whatever. No, I can do whatever the fuck I want to do.
Yeah. And I guess also,
and I don't care. I don't even care if it makes money or not. I mean,
yeah.
A lot of people get hung up on that and they just give it up. Well, it doesn't make any money, so I'm just not going to do it anymore. Get a job.
Yeah.
That's what I did, and I've got a decent job. So I'm doing upgrades to my gear, and like I'm about to probably actually just for playing live and stuff, I'm going to make a few more investments, but I already have made those investments. We got an entire backline that I've had for years. So, but I'm willing to invest in it. These past 2 shows we did were killer. And then there it is, and that's what it's all about. I don't give a shit about, being on some fat pimpy label and being like a thing. But having said that, that very attitude is what got a band kind of, like Niall, where it is. We didn't give a shit, man. Everybody was just like, okay, well, maybe we can play regionally and play some regional shows. And I was totally down with that because nothing was going on in my hometown where I grew up with musicians at that point. Everybody was moving out or they were just quitting, So it's a big, it'll be a big shock to anybody that does get any traction whatsoever, that they can go drive 8 hours that way, play a show, and then look at what the merch they sold and be like, God damn. Wow, I wasn't expecting that, And that's it, man. You just fly the flag, see who salutes it, and you're going to find out that people are into it. Especially now, since we haven't got to do it in a while, too.
Yeah, no, for sure. I was going to ask you. I saw Niall play 3 times with you in the band. I was up close at least once, and one of the things that I absolutely love about your style of playing, and that I noticed about you when you were on stage, was how fluid you seem to be. I always sort of distinguish between musicians in one of 2 ways. You get musicians where you can see they're very, very practiced, and they're extremely technical, but you can see there's an extraordinary amount of work and effort that goes into it. And then some people, just appear completely, whatever they do appears to be completely effortless, and I'd say, someone like you, Trey from Morbid Angel, Chuck from Death, those are people that it always seemed to me like they can, you can pick up a guitar, and I know it's not true, obviously, but you can pick up a guitar and the music just flows from you. So one thing I was curious about is I've heard you refer to yourself as a practicing musician before, and you obviously alluded to it earlier. How much practicing do you actually do nowadays? How much work goes into getting your craft at the level that it is, for Narcotic Wasteland, or that it was when you were in Niall?
I try to get as much time in as I can, but I also try to stay kind of focused and disciplined with the whole thing, and that will kind of dictate what I'm practicing. We had some shows coming up, so I hit the entire set list every other day. On the weekends, I may hit it 2 or 3 times. And then on my off days where I'm kind of giving my muscles a rest a little bit, I will work on just some technique or some ideas. Or I'll just jam around or something and just jam on a guitar and just play, I would say that I've always played a lot, no matter the situation. I've taken a couple of extended breaks, like a month before, just to go vacation and just clear my head and just stop for a minute, But I haven't played since the gig, but I've got to restring and change strings on my main guitars and all that stuff. They're icky right now. So they need a bath and new strings. But I practice a lot, and what you were saying about the whole fluidity and vocals and guitar being like one singular expression. That definitely takes work, man. I mean, but if you want it to sound a certain way and you're passionate about it, you're going to do what it takes to make that happen. And the only way to do that is fucking practice. And, you know, I think I see a lot of guitar players actually making a mistake with their practice. And they'll spend a lot of their time practicing scales and arpeggios and all that stuff. And all that stuff is really great. It's very useful stuff, especially if it's done in a musical context and you're making actual music with it. But what ends up happening is they don't get that rhythm practice, and that's where set list comes in. Hit the set list, even if you don't feel like doing it. Do it anyways, and within the first 2 minutes, you're going to be like, I don't know why I didn't want to do this. This is fucking great. So, yes, I'm very disciplined. I mean, I've read interviews where, you know, you read guitar players like, I only practice I only play guitar when I get an idea. Yeah, that's why you've been putting out the same fucking album forever. Stop it. Educate yourself. Take lessons. I took lessons last year, and I started that actually before the pandemic, just because I was like, man, I'd like to get back to some basics and really brush up on some stuff and have somebody else take a look at me, you know, closely. And I realized there was actually a few things that I needed to improve on, and I did. And now I'm, you know, reaping those benefits. I mean, the day that I stop learning will be the day I fucking die, you know? I mean, there's only one way to go, and that's to educate yourself and just play, not necessarily practice. It doesn't feel like practice to me. It's fun. I love it. Yeah. So I do it all the time.
So who did you take lessons from?
There's a guy in town here. His name is Sean Allen, and he's been teaching at a guitar shop in town for years. And I've talked with him over the years because I would shop at that guitar shop and stuff like that. And he's got a master's degree or whatever, probably even whatever. He's like, he knows his shit. He's the type of guy that can read it off the paper and play it. And he's a great electric guitarist, but I think primarily he's a classical guitarist. But he knows his shit, and he took me out of my comfort zone real fucking quick, and I was thankful for it. I was like, oh shit, here we go. I got to try and learn this fucking shit, man.
Yeah. You know? So
it was great.
I was going to ask you, so for somebody who sees Among the Living or playing the main riff to Among the Living as the pinnacle of my guitar playing excellence, what did he point out as, you kind of mentioned it a second ago, like what did he point out as kind of things that you needed to improve on or opportunities that you had to develop?
Well, he said that I have a common problem with a lot of metal guys, the fretting hand. We use up a lot of energy with our fingers, just like lots of motion in there. And we press way too hard, and you don't have to press the strings that hard. But of course, we're aggressive as fuck, and we're just like, we're grabbing it by the fist, with our fist, and just like, and it's probably even wanking a little out of tune because you're grabbing it so hard. That's what she said. Anyways, oh man. I'm not going to go there, but there is an elephant in the room. Because of certain media events, and that's all I'm going to say, the past week, we went and played those shows or whatever. Oh, my God, and it was all just dick jokes and masturbation jokes. It was ridiculous. Anyways. That's all I'm going to say about that.
And were you doing classical guitar with him, or was it kind of focused on electric playing?
Yeah, no, it was mostly focused on not necessarily electric playing, but just playing in general, just different picking techniques and where I need to how I need to properly position my left hand, stuff like that. But also, you know, getting my fingers on, you know, major scale patterns, the circle of fifths, all that stuff, and it ended up being like a lot of stuff. So I took a hiatus on it because I was getting more busy with the band, but as soon as you know, we get done with this, so fucking lately. It's so much fun, and it challenges you, and it just kind of opens your mind up.
Yeah, yeah. So if you kind of think about stuff that you would like to do, like, you know, Alex Skolnick, for example, I think if memory serves me correctly, he studied jazz and he did all sorts of other crazy shit. Is there kind of something off your or outside of your purview that you'd like to study up on, or that you want to kind of, I guess, learn to challenge yourself with?
I'm still very much a metal guitarist, and I don't really have any interest in being anything else. I do like the blues very much, but that's not really the way I like to play. I'm more of my favorite stuff ever is, you know, punk, thrash, and death metal, and the varying blends that can become is fascinating to me. So that's kind of where my heart's always been.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you know, I dig a lot of. I listen to a lot of earlier '80s heavy metal stuff, and also like blues and stuff like that. Really, just a lot of ZZ Top. Been listening to ZZ Top a lot lately, but it flips back and forth. Sometimes I'll be in the mood for something like Stevie Ray, or, you know, it all depends on my mood and what's going on, what's transpiring around me. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of where my heart's at. So, but as far as trying to actually do like a project or something, no, I don't give a shit about that.
Yeah.
I'm just going to do me, and I'm going to enjoy them doing them.
Yeah. So as you were kind of, because I know you started off playing the drums, and I was going to ask you actually, do you still practice the drums, or is that not
No, I don't practice my drums. I keep talking about how I'm going to set it up and all that stuff, and rip out some stuff, because there's actually a couple of things I would like to do. I actually would like to do like a playthrough, like a cover of the song or something. But you know, I'm just a lazy ass guitar player. I don't ever set my drums up anymore.
So as you were kind of coming up as a guitarist, and you know, through to you know, you as a musician in 2021, you know, who are some of the guitarists that have influenced or inspired you over the years, and you know, kind of continue to be folks that you look to when you you know, I guess when you need a bit of pep in your step?
Well, nothing like a little bit of Paul Gilbert to put some pep in your step, but it would be really hard to say, man, because I mean, just in this past couple of years, I've gotten more back into Ritchie Blackmore and Tony Iommi, and then more of the shreddy stuff like Paul Gilbert, but also some lesser known ones, or ones that you don't really hear people talk about, like Lenny Rutledge of Sanctuary. I think he's a great guitar player. He's got some of the best riffs. And then that segues into Chris Olivier from Sabotage. I've been listening to that shit lately. And then, you know, on the death metal side of things, you know, fucking Vigna and Moises are always like in my top. You know, they're always getting spins. I'm always spinning that disc. But yeah, just kind of all over the place with that.
Yeah. By the way, you mentioned Sanctuary. I've been fucking obsessed with them recently again. I go through these phases where I'll just completely overdose for like 2 weeks straight on Nevermore and Sanctuary, get completely miserable about the idea that Warrell Dane has passed away, and then put it away for another 6 months, and then come back to it. But I mean, I completely agree with you. I mean, in terms of riffing on you know, any Sanctuary release is just fucking incredible. And then, you know, obviously, like I said,
oh yeah,
the greatest in my view, the greatest clean singing metal man on the face of the, or you know, whoever was, Warrell Dane, just putting his magic over it. It's incredible.
Oh yeah, definitely in my top 5, man. He was incredible, and I saw Sanctuary open for Warlock and Megadeth, and that's when I first heard of them, actually, and they fucking crushed. And I went out the next day, bought Refuge Denied cassette, wore it out, had to buy another one, wore that one out, and then had to get the CD.
Did Dave Ellefson at that show, did he manage to stay on stage for the entirety of the concert, or did he have to jet off to do a Zoom?
Oh, now we're talking about the elephant in the room.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
Oh, my God. See, I didn't want to, because we were just making all kinds of fucking jokes this weekend when we were playing those shows, man. Me and Chris, mostly, because Chris, bassist for Narcotic, me and him all we do is fucking laugh and make fucking jokes about shit. We were just having a fucking field day.
Yeah, no, dude.
Oh, my God. We were just dying. I read that shit, and I was just like, what in the fuck? Like, and then I just got to thinking about it, and I was like, wow, how can you be that stupid, dude? Really?
Yeah. Well, as I've said,
I mean, that's just fucking stupid.
I know.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with jerking the gherkin, all right? Everybody does it. It's not like a thing. It's like, you know, but to be so careless about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, to put it out in the public domain in an environment like we operate in nowadays, where, you know, as I've said on this podcast, everyone is, you know, you've got this mob of simps sitting online, frothing at the mouth at the very prospect of being able to wreck somebody's life or wreck somebody's career or ruin their reputation. You know, you would think that somebody, you know, and I've had Dave on the podcast. He was an extremely nice guy, but, you know, and, you know, very well spoken, very articulate. He's, you know, he doesn't come across like a dullard, but fucking hell, to do something like that,
right?
It's just nuts.
Yeah, but I agree with you there. I just with some of the stuff that I read and watching people, not just him, but just anything in general when it comes to, you know, these shitty webzines, they definitely will. It's the same with political media, where it's like somebody says something, so let's make it a quote, which completely takes it out of fucking context, by the way. And then and then you see the clickbait fucking happen. You know what I mean? Fuck that guy. He was always a dick. You know, it's the absolute worst drivel fucking National and Enquirer level media that we have for metal nowadays half the time. You know what? I'm going to start. I used to make this joke years ago. I'm like, I'm going to fucking start my own webzine, and we are going to interview other webzines and review other webzines. You know what I'm going to call it? Metalsucks.net, sucks.com.
Yeah.
Yeah, fuck that bull. I've been very in it. Anytime I see that shit pop up my news feed, I'm just like, yawn, more clickbait drama from the shittiest webzine ever. Go fuck yourself. Like, I'm ruthless on that shit.
Yeah.
I can't stand it. Because they're actually biting the hand that feeds them.
Yeah. No, I agree. Well, it's like, you know, like the MMA websites are like that as well. They'll rail on Dana White and the UFC, and it's like I've often looked at it and I go, you realize you wouldn't exist without Dana White and the UFC. It's kind of the same with the music websites. It's like without these bands, particularly the high profile bands that you constantly attack, you wouldn't exist. You know, if you didn't post something like, you know, Blabbermouth the other day did literally the most kind of definitive example of what you've just spoken about. James Hetfield had said something about, you know, not being sure about getting the vaccine. So the headline goes, James Hetfield is a vaccine skeptic. And it's like, oh my God.
Oh, go fuck yourself with that shit, man. That's come on. Get a fucking life.
Yeah.
Quit your job, please, and get another one. It's like, man, and it's just drivel. It's boring and it's uninteresting. I want tour dates. I want to know what the band's doing.
Yeah.
I don't want to know what they're doing behind closed doors. Oh, fuck no. I'm interested in their whatever they're doing with their fucking instrument, and not that one.
Yeah.
You know.
So
it's just fucking stupid, man. And you know, and it was stupid on his part, and that is, in my opinion, if that would gone down in my band, that is grounds for dismissal.
Yeah.
But fuck the media and that bullshit too. You know, the best thing that ever happened out of that was I did see someone get canceled that actually deserved it. He was a booking agent guy, and he was a complete sleazeball.
Yeah.
Got ousted on Metal Sucks, and that was like the only thing I think they'd probably ever done that was any good.
Yeah.
You know, it's like he definitely deserved to get fucking shot down in front of everybody. But other than that, I ain't got no use for it.
Yeah. So you've not asked the guys from Narcotic Wasteland to turn in. I want to see your mobile device. If I find one jerk off video or dick pic on you, you're fired.
Well, it's funny. That was one of the jokes. I looked at them. I was like, man, I love you guys like my brother. I promise you, I'll never derail you.
Yeah.
Because everybody calls me D.
Yeah.
And then rail you, rail you. I'll never derail you, dude. Like, or, anyways, a bunch of stupid jokes.
Yeah.
And it's funny. Like I said, getting back to it, it's like same with the political media and the shit storms they always start. It's like the only thing ever good really comes out of any of it is fucking dank memes.
Yeah, no, that's true. And as you say, everything is based around clickbait. Everything is based around. I mean, it's because of the revenue model that these places have. So they write, even like the way that headlines are written has changed now to be as clickbaity as possible. Most of it's complete bullshit. And it's like they come up with the most insane thing they possibly can because everybody, whether they're on the left or on the right, has to look at it, like either to be enraged or to be reminded of the fact that, in their minds, they're right. There was one today that came out that The Guardian put out. Shrek was a low point for the animation genre and should be forgotten about. It was like, are you so joyless that 20 years after a film's release, you're going after an animation movie to talk about how the humor is lowbrow and garbage? And apparently they threw in a couple of isms there as well. Just absolutely fucking stupid.
I mean, we are talking about a movie that was made in the U.S., right?
Yeah, that's true.
What the fuck were you thinking?
Yeah.
Of course. Anyways.
So just talking about your time in Niall, and I'll move on from that in a second. But I was keen to just kind of know from you, what are some of your favorite memories of being in, of playing in the band, being in the band, over a 20-year span. There must have been some pretty incredible highs, and as you say, things that you probably never ever thought were going to happen, back when you were starting out with the band.
Oh man, there's a lot of great moments. One that always comes to mind when someone asks me that is there was a time where it was actually right after Annihilation of the Wicked came out, and we were opening for King Diamond, and we were touring the States, and we were playing this place called The Pound in San Francisco. Well, it's actually a very small club on the inside, and it packs out. It's fucking crazy. But for this particular show, they had actually set up a stage outside. And during the song Annihilation of the Wicked, we look up and see like the moon and like a layer of clouds, like it was shining through. And that was just a magical moment because the band and the stage sounded really good that night. And so there was one of them, but there's also a lot of great studio moments where you just have this light bulb go off in your head and it makes lightning in a bottle. Those were always fun moments. And that usually happened on every album at least twice, where it was just like, wow, yes, that's it, That was also a lot of fun. And certainly some great memorable shows. There were too many. As far as the shows are concerned, there's always too many to remember. But yeah, man, playing live in a band and working with the band in the studio and stuff like that, all that shit's great, man. I mean, it ain't even really gonna matter as long as you like the music and you like the guys. It's not really gonna matter. It's gonna be one of the greatest things, one of the greatest feelings you'll ever have.
Yeah.
And yeah, so that's a few things to name, in the Niall years for sure. And I know they probably all felt that way too. It was just when everything clicks and everything's sounding right, and it's like you're really getting close and honing in on what you're trying to achieve. And there was some great magical moments where we just look at each other and go, "Oh my God, holy shit, man!" And that's what you live for. That's why you do it. You want those kind of achievements.
Was it difficult for you to make the transition to being a frontman? I would imagine it is insanely hard to remember, particularly like some of the ancient Egyptian or Aramaic stuff that you guys had to do, and then play at that level that you had to play from a technical perspective and a speed perspective, but kind of moving into being the frontman. Was that a difficult shift?
Not at all, because every band that I had ever been in previous to Niall, I was the front man.
Yeah.
And, we had like more of the triple vocal thing going on with everybody, and I thought that was cool. And that was also something that I did in an early band. And so, yeah, that wasn't much of a transition for me at all, because I was already singing a good bit of the stuff in the band anyways. And on anything from Black Seeds all the way up, I'm in there quite often. And it became more often, I think, mostly because of the, revolving door that was the bass player slot after Chief Spires left, and then after John Lozano left. So we ended up switching it up and putting me center stage, and because of me being able to do things really good and really quickly in the studio, they ended up just doing it more and more. And it wasn't because we didn't want other people on there. It was just I was the only one that could do it.
Yeah, yeah.
But see, I've been singing and playing since I was 14 years old. And, back then I was playing on to shit like Sanctuary. So my first band actually did Battle Angels back when I could hit a high F sharp.
Yeah.
I still let one rip every now and then because me and my roommate, we've been listening to all this old shit. So every now and then we'll have a few drinks and I'll be like, yeah, just like just fucking let one rip.
Dude, that is impressive, by the way. I kind of like, I Dwayne to sing it in the car from time to time, but there's no fucking chance I can do anything that Worrell did. I mean, even on any of the later records, even that's a bit of a push. But one thing that I was going to ask you, you put out the Narcotic Wasteland record, or Delirium Tremens, not too long after you left Niall, or at least news broke of you leaving Niall. How do you feel about the reaction that record got when it came out? From my perspective, at least, it kind of I was really surprised. Not that I expected people to respond badly to it, but I definitely felt like there was a real sort of embrace of it, and people really, really got into it. Myself included, I should say.
Yeah, I didn't really look at that at the time. We did the debut album. I think I released that in 2014 when I was still active with Niall, and initially it was going to be something to do when Niall wasn't busy because, well, I quite frankly enjoy the hell out of music and I like to play as much as possible. And so that was it. And then we actually were already working on the next release, me, Chris, and Ed, and you know, and then some things happened, and I decided that it was my time to depart from Niall, and I was like, well, shit, that's one less thing on my plate. Now I'm just going to concentrate on this band and see what happens here. And, you know, and we put out Delirium and went out on tour, you know, not too long ago. I think we were out on tour when it came out. And, you know, and it was fairly well received overall as far as like the live thing. You know, it, in a lot of ways would essentially be like starting over, but I was really surprised that people were into it. I mean, and whatever, I learned a long time ago, do not read comments, you know, just don't. Because people, there's a lot of neurologically typical assholes out there with very misinformed opinions. And I don't really, you know, when you hear somebody just say something because they want to hear themselves speak, it's just reeks of neurologically typical behavior. And I just don't want to subject myself to that.
Yeah. Oh, and you know, to the point we made earlier about people wanting to wreck other people's careers, the other thing that you know, the online, you know, barrage love is you know, putting people's efforts down. You know, and especially people in my experience who come from, you know, high profile bands, do something else or branch out. You know, there's always, you know, a naysayer on there that goes, sucks because it's not Niall, or, you know, whatever the case may be. I mean, there's people that to this day still think that Cannibal Corpse is garbage because, you know, Chris isn't the vocalist. There, you know, someone will always have something negative to say. So, you know, to your point about not reading the comments, it's from a mental health perspective, I imagine it's probably the wise thing to do as well.
Well, yeah. Well, there's that. I've got pretty tough skin either way, but also we are subjected to what I like to call neurologically typical behavior on a day-to-day basis. I don't honestly care what your dumbass thinks about me. If you like it, cool. I'm going to be very thankful for that. If you don't like it, also cool. And it's also cool if you want to go talk some shit. But, you know, it's not going to ruffle my feathers. I think you're a fucking idiot. So,
yeah.
Why should I care what the fuck you think about me? Go fuck yourself.
Yeah.
You got nothing better to do than sit around and fucking talk shit on the internet. Go fuck yourself. You're part of the problem. Go practice.
Yeah.
Go jack off. Go do something. It's probably more constructive than what you're doing now.
Yeah. What made you kind of take the Narcotic Wasteland lyrical theme down something that is, you know, probably more closely aligned to social commentary and realism than the usual, you know, killer, horror, zombie, Satan stuff?
It means more to me. It has, you know, to me, it has more weight overall. It's heavier. And it's just stuff that I needed to kind of get off my chest about a few things that happened to me. And yeah, you know, that's basically what we are, is a way for, you know, me, Chris, and Ed to kind of get some things off our chest and talk about some things. And you know, we grew up in a really shitty town together, and it's nice to kind of finally just get it all out. And that's kind of how it started. But, you know, I've said it 1,000 times in a couple other interviews, and it, you know, just because the band is named Iron Maiden doesn't mean they always have to write songs about Iron Maidens.
Yeah.
So, and the debut album was an example of that. And it's actually one of my favorite songs we ever done. It's called Coastal Killings, and it's about a serial killer that was here in South Carolina by the name of Donald Henry Gaskins. And I think the reason why I wrote that song was because reading how he grew up. Now, I was lucky. I grew up, I came from a nice family, you know. He didn't come from such a nice family, and I've known people that didn't come from such nice families, and I can see just being, you know, in the Carolinas, you know, pretty much my whole life, how something like that creature could happen. And so that's why it was fascinating to me. And but also, you know, with the new material that we're going to be releasing sometime this year, a lot of what we've been talking about lately is just overall narcissistic behavior in people and stuff like that. It's getting pretty deep. Not so much about you know, drug abuse this time, and it's a little more about just shitty behavior and shitty people. But yes, very much. You know, I've had people say that my lyrics were terrible, they were cringeworthy, they're cheesy, and all this stuff. And I've also had people send me messages saying that, you know, a particular thing that I said or a particular song helped them with their situation.
Yeah.
And it was inspiring to them. So, yeah, you got to take the good with the bad and just go with it. You know? Most of the people that would say something like that probably take themselves and me way too fucking seriously anyways.
Yeah.
And, yeah, you know, man, I don't have to tell you.
Yeah, yeah. I was going to ask you, without kind of dumping anybody into trouble, you know, obviously, given some of the stuff that you're singing about, I mean, how much partying goes on in the extreme music scene? I've been backstage, and most of what I've seen has been weed and beer, but I don't think I've ever kind of seen the you know, certainly not from a death metal band, the degree of debauchery that you read about in like the Al Jorgensen biography or the, you know, Motley Crue or something like that.
Yeah, you know, it is different. I mean, in this genre, I remember, I think it was Wacken 2003. They were, I will not say their names, but there was a couple of guys that were friends, and they actually made a pentagram out of cocaine and snorted it.
Yeah.
And, I mean, I see the appeal already. But, yeah, I mean, that's probably, I've seen some shit, you know, but it wasn't the musicians. It was a club in L.A. There was somebody that had stuck backstage to shoot up. And he got ejected pretty quickly. But, you know, nobody hurt him or anything. It was just like, you got to go. You can't be doing this shit back here. So, and fucking L.A. is a goddamn narcotic wasteland, dude. You know? I mean, so, I mean, other than a little bit of cocaine, yeah, you're right. You know, but a lot of the metal guys, yeah, it's beer or weed or both, and they don't necessarily abuse it or get out of hand with it or anything.
Yeah.
You know, most of them, because most of them are there just for the fucking metal.
Yeah.
So, so yeah, you know, it's not like it was back then. And also, you know, being backstage at, say, a Niall show is a lot different from being backstage at a ministry show.
Oh, yeah.
You go backstage at a Niall show, and, you know, one of us is probably practicing, and someone's making a sandwich, and, you know, or whatever. Someone's sitting there on their laptop or their phone, you know, playing a game.
Ritual in the corner.
Yeah, the drummer's always asleep somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
By the way, you mentioned serial killer earlier. Have you watched that Sons of Sam documentary on Netflix?
It's on my queue. I haven't watched it yet, but I think the last thing I watched was about the Cecil Hotel.
Which was atrocious.
Oh my God! Yeah,
terrible.
But yeah, I'm into all that. I read about criminal psychology, and I watch freaking Forensic Files religiously, and almost every night when I go to bed, I'll be like, "Yeah, I've seen that one before. It's a good episode." But anyway, yeah, just I like reading about that stuff. But yeah, that's actually on my queue. I'll probably watch it Saturday.
Yeah, you're going to enjoy it, mate. I think it's excellent. I think it's on a par with the Night Stalker documentary, which I also really liked. but it's basically kind of exploring this crazy, and I knew a fair bit about the Son of Sam case, but these crazy like occult connections to what happened. It's fucking brilliant. It's really, really good. I was literally watching it right before this. It's very cool.
Hell yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that, and that new season of Castlevania, and I'm watched that this weekend. It came out this last weekend, but we were out of town, so we'll watch that. But yeah, the Son of Sam, and I need to watch the Ramirez one also, because before that came out, I ended up watching one on a crime channel anyway, so it was a different one about Ramirez. And it was very informative and cool. Then they got the one on Netflix, so got to watch that one.
Okay, here we go.
There we go. We're back. Just as you were talking about needing to see the Richard Ramirez documentary, his ghost came out and fucked up the internet.
Oh, yes, in the name of Satan himself.
but that is an excellent documentary, by the way. I think the best ones that Netflix have done have been the Ted Bundy tapes, and then the Richard Ramirez one, and then this Sons of Sam. I think they're all excellent. That Cecil Hotel one was fucking awful, and I never got the fuss about making a murderer. I think that basically as soon as I heard the guy tossed a kitten on a fire, I was like, well, fuck him. You'd be taken to the gallows regardless.
Yeah, that was kind of how I felt about that Donald Henry Gaskins book that I read. It was like, if you don't believe in the death penalty, this sorry son of a bitch will make you want to.
Yeah. Well, so you mentioned, reading like criminal psychology books. I was, very, very, very focused on becoming a criminal profiler when I was younger. And I think reading the number of books that I read and, kind of coming to grips with my own feelings about things, I realized very quickly that I don't have the temperament for it. I find it very interesting as a field of study, and I still read an awful lot, and I clearly watch a lot of documentaries about it. But I think if I had to sit face to face with somebody who just killed a child or, raped a bunch of women or something like that, I err more towards the side of kind of RoboCop, Judge Dredd, when it comes to administering justice to those people. I would have a real difficulty, I think, building a connection with somebody like that.
Yeah, that's to talk about thick skin. That would be a really tough one. And for me, I thought maybe it would be fun to be a detective or, try to solve murder mysteries or whatever. But I think actually seeing a crime scene, I would probably run away with the tip of my tail between my legs.
Yeah.
I knew I wouldn't be able to handle it, and it would fuck me for life.
Yeah, and that's the thing for me. It was like understanding my temperament. It's not right for that field of work. It was a book by a guy named Robert Resler that turned me around. The book was called Who Fights Monsters, and this is one of the people that they based one of the characters in Mindhunter on. He was one of the pioneers in criminal profiling. He'd really kind of evolved the science, but he writes the foreword of his book and, talks about how he became a drug addict. He was, an alcoholic. And he said, that's the only way you can cope. He says, if what you're seeing day in and day out is literally the very worst and the most evil things that society has to offer, he kind of ended off with this quote that once you stare into the abyss, the abyss can't help but stare back at you. And when I'd finished reading that book, I was like, this is the best book I've ever read on criminality of any sort. And I know for sure now that I cannot do this for a living one day.
Yeah, it's still very interesting to read about. And it's always cool to see what it was that actually solved the case. And it's always just something that's like, what? It was a lot of times it was right in front of everybody's face, and they just didn't, just looking at it with the wrong set of eyes, if you will.
Well, they pulled over, if memory serves me correctly, they pulled over Jeffrey Dahmer while he had a body in his car. We had a body in the trunk of the car. I think they did the same with Edmund Kemper as well.
Yeah, and none be the wiser.
Yeah. Well, imagine being the cop who did that. I mean, it's no laughing matter, but fucking hell, man. You know, it's. I can't imagine how big of an asshole you must feel like if it's like, oh, by the way, you pulled me over and I had somebody dead in the boot of the car.
Oh yeah, totally blew it.
Yeah, dude. So you mentioned new Narcotic Wasteland coming out later this year.
Yeah, definitely. We got more than enough material for an album now, and it was actually going to be out. You know, we were going to try and get it out last spring, but between you know, the whole drummer issue that arose again, me, Chris, and Ed had to figure that one out. And then the pandemic happened, and then we were just like, well, maybe we'll just work on some stuff and take it easy for a little while. So the new album will have the original, it's all original lineup. It'll have Eric Scholtek back on the drums, and me, Chris, and Ed. And
Awesome.
So we've been working together pretty diligently, back and forth. I just had a great conversation on Messenger last night with Eric. We do the video chat thing, you know, usually with Messenger or whatever. And yeah, we had a great conversation. Between these two, we just had some gigs this past weekend. I'm looking up at my calendar right now. There's some in August. I think it's like 3 shows in August or something like that. And between now and then, my plan is to really get more things done and solidified on everything, because the songs are there. It's just, you know, trying a few different things and a few things with the mix or whatever, a few different things that need to happen before I put it into the public. But like, so yeah, things are going to really be happening here in the next 4 or 5 months. And I think we'll probably, before the album releases, we'll probably try to do an actual video and a lyric video for a couple of the songs. But it's really shaping up, man. I'm really happy about it. And everybody is contributing a lot of material on this record, and it's just fucking great.
Will that be out on Megaforce as well?
Yeah, I mean, as far as I know, we haven't really. I haven't talked to them in a minute, but they know what we're doing, and they know kind of a basic timeline of what's going on. So yeah, it'll be very possible that it will get the distribution from Megaforce this time as well.
Yeah, and note the subtle tribute to Megaforce that I'm wearing at the moment. But I listened to Johnny Zazula on Chris Jericho's podcast last week. I was really surprised by, you know, for a guy who's 69 years old, how on top of the music scene he still is. You know, like he was referencing bands like Septic Flesh that he thinks is brilliant. Like, you know, the guy is you know, he still knows what's going on.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. And, you know, in some ways, I've always felt this way, that rock and roll can keep you young.
Yeah, no,
as long as you know, you don't go down any dark paths.
Well, as we spoke about ministry earlier, Johnny also managed ministry for a hot minute. So,
right.
Which I mean, how he survived that, I don't know. But he did say on the podcast that was like the happiest time of his entire life. So, I mean, I would imagine he's got some pretty crazy stories to tell.
Absolutely. No telling, man.
Cool. All right. Listen, my brother, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. And I hope at some point we'll get to see Narcotic Wasteland in Europe. But either way, hopefully we bump into each other down the road at some point. But again, really, really, really appreciate the time. Really enjoyed the conversation.
Oh, man, the pleasure's mine. Thank you very much for having me having me for a conversation.
Awesome.
And yes, I would love for us to get to Europe at some point, and I will try my damnedest to make that happen.
Badass. All right, man. Take care of yourself.
Thanks a lot, man. Have a good one.
All right. Bye-bye.
Everything always hanging in the delicate balance. Descent into dark and
You just listened to a track called Introspective Nightmares by Narcotic Wasteland off an album called Delirium Tremens, which came out back in 2017. Great to hear that the band are due to release their next album very shortly, or at the very least at some point this year. And a lot of fun talking to Dallas. I think you guys will probably have picked up, it took a bit of a feeling out process in this conversation, I think, to get the dynamic right. I get the impression, and I didn't get the impression at the time, but upon reflection, I think that Dallas gets asked an awful lot of the same questions, and so that's why I didn't want to probe too deeply into the reasons why he left Niall, because again, I'm pretty sure he's been asked this 1,000 times, and probably by people who are looking for something salacious. Frankly, I've never been about that. I wanted to talk to the man more so than find out any gossip. And so I did want to cover it because I knew that you all would be interested in knowing about it. I certainly wanted to, but at the same time, I wasn't going to push on it too much. But again, I feel like it took a little bit of time for us to hit our stride, but I definitely feel like we got there towards the end. So loads of fun having him on. Hopefully it won't be the last time. He's a very cool dude, and I think Narcotic Wasteland is a fucking excellent band. I think that as far as moving on from something as trailblazing as Niall was never going to be easy, but I think he's found a good outlet with Narcotic Wasteland. And like I said, that record, Delirium Tremens, is available on Megaforce Records, so check it out. I'll post a link to the description in the description of the podcast, and you can give it a gander. So, coming up next, I want to talk about some new music, and the new record by Borgne is first on the list. It's called Temps Morts. It is their 10th album since they got started in 1998, and it follows up last year's very well-received album, Why. Personally, I've always found Borgne to be just a hair away from greatness on pretty much all of their albums. For those that don't know what they sound like, they combine industrial and black metal in a way that I think, on paper was what I was hoping Borum's first and second records would sound like. Obviously, they turned into complete and utter trash after that, but when I kind of first, when I first read the description of Borum, industrial and black metal collides in this crazy, post-apocalyptic, atmospheric mishmash. I'd kind of hoped it would sound a little bit like Borgne. Borgne, as I said, get it right most of the time, but I've always felt that most of their records kind of fall just a frog's hair away from genius. This album, on the other hand, I'm very pleased to say, I think pretty much nails it from start to finish. It's a pretty meaty release. It's 9 tracks and about 73 minutes long. But from my perspective, it is thoroughly mesmerizing from start to finish. It blends the usual kind of Godflesh-inspired industrial, abrasiveness that they've always had in their music. I think it turns the volume up on it a little bit, and really, between the program drumming and all the keyboards and everything else, the music has this really kind of inhuman feel to it. But then there's a very distinct vein of atmospheric black metal that runs through it from start to finish as well. And I feel like part of the reason why Temps Morts work so well is because where on previous records they had the tendency to sometimes be a little self-indulgent, or I would say overindulgent when it came to those industrial elements. Here, they have found a way to break up some of the craziness with just a very sort of odd or very let's find the right word, very distinct but restrained guitar melody, or they use the synths, not to kind of create more noise, but to actually add on a couple of other or additional layers of texture. The reality of it is industrial black metal isn't for everybody, and if you think that the first 3 Dark Throne records are all that is truly cult and everything else is false, chances are you probably won't like the album. Chances are also that you probably don't listen to this podcast. But for me, I think this is excellent. This is the first track off of Temps Morts. It is a song called To Cut the Flesh and Feel Nothing But Stillness. You've just listened to a track called To Cut the Flesh and Feel Nothing But Stillness. It is available right now on Leactor de l'Ombre Productions, which, fun fact, translates to Shadow Actors in English. An awesome label who have not only been responsible for releasing Temps Morts, but were also responsible for another fantastic record, The Greater Evil by Cold Cell. Now, I must confess, Cold Cell is not a band that I am hugely familiar with. It was actually Marco of Stellar Master Elite that dropped me a note on Facebook and literally just had the link to the record and an emoji with open, stretched eyes on it, and instantly I knew that I needed to check it out. This, as it turns out, is Cold Cell's fourth record. It's a follow-up to an album called Those, which came out in 2017. Marco, by the way, is somebody who will definitely come back on the show at some point. Just as a kind of side note, one of the ideas that I've had recently was to do probably just a one-episode redux of my my top 50 favorite black metal bands. And I've come up with a scientific method to ensure that the rankings are managed accordingly. I think there's going to be a couple of surprises in there as well, because obviously a couple of bands have fallen from grace, and a couple of bands have shot up in my estimation as well. So that will come your way at some point in the not-too-distant future. But back to Cold Cell. I have to say that as much as I was crowing about the new Inferno album being one of the year's finest, I suspect that with The Greater Evil, Cold Cell have potentially created a contender to that throne, and then some. I mean, this is absolutely fucking fantastic. And unlike their label mates in Borgne, Cold Cell don't ply their trade by coloring outside of genre conventions. Rather, this takes all of the elements of traditional atmospheric black metal as its jumping off point, and then it basically just weaves everything together in an unbelievably polished, expertly executed manner. I mean, this is literally, where traditional influences meets, masterful songwriting, and, it turns into a record like this, where all 7 of the tracks on the album sound, distinct. They sound particularly self-contained. Everything is well written, well polished, and the songs shift gears effortlessly between just, violent, mean, gnarly aggression, stuff that wouldn't be out of place on a Mayhem album, and then these, really, really dark, brooding, somber atmospheres. And again, every single thing just works exceptionally well. I'm finding it very, very difficult to find any sort of flaw on this album whatsoever, and I have to say, ever since Marco put it on my radar, I've found it very difficult to listen to anything else. You're going to find out why right now. This is a track off of The Greater Evil. This is Cold Cell with Armored Pride. Cold Cell with Armored Pride off of a record called The Greater Evil. It is available right now on L'Acteur de l'Ombre Productions, as is Borgne, the band that I mentioned previously. Their new album Temps Mort's available also on that fine record label. So check those out. I'll post the link in the description to the podcast. So head over to their Bandcamp, buy yourself some swag, and if they ask you who sent you, then you let them know that it was old Jackson at Into the Necrosphere. And who knows, maybe I'll get one or both bands on as guests at some point in the not too distant future. Right, on that note, it is time for us to shift gears and look at a couple of news headlines. First up, on Metal Storm, Sudakra upcoming studio album Wolfbite detailed. You will remember that I've spoken to a couple of folks about why I decided to stop writing for music websites. Sudakra, one of the reasons why. It's one of those bands where they're the prime example to me of, you know, melodic death metal being an oversubscribed genre. And there was a period of time, you know, in the kind of late 2000s where literally every other band sounded like this, you know, well produced, you know, well produced as in probably a little clinically produced, you know, very well played and performed, but it just sounded like every other pile of shit around. You know, it lacked any kind of menace, any sort of danger. Whether Wolfbite is going to be an exception, I don't know, but I have no interest in this kind of music whatsoever. Yeah, not to slate Tadokra, but again, they're the reason why I left Chronicles of Chaos and Metal Rules, to be quite frank. Right, anyways, this ending, Drop New Track, another example of one of those bands, complete and utter dog shit. So nothing on that first page really of any kind of interest. King Witch unveil cover of Metallica's The Thing That Should Not Be. I don't think any band should be allowed to cover this song because I think Metallica did it so perfectly that, you know, I just cannot possibly see that anybody could do this justice whatsoever. I remember hearing The Thing That Should Not Be for the first time, and I think it wasn't just the, you know, that really kind of moody opening riff, but the Kirk Hammett solo just scared the fucking piss out of me. I think I was 11 years old when I heard it for the first time, and I never heard something that sounded so twisted and so gnarly before. And, you know, to be honest, I think it's still one of the best Metallica songs ever. You know, in spite of the fact that it was mangled on the S&M video. But yeah, like I said, no one should be covering The Thing That Should Not Be. As a matter of fact, I think that any Metallica covers, I've yet to hear a band do a half-decent Metallica cover ever. I literally have never heard anyone do a good job. Slaughter to Prevail, Unleash Baba Yaga single. This is the biggest load of shit on the face of the earth. I mean, aside from the fact that Slaughter to Prevail is right up there with Dreams of Nightmares as far as band names are concerned, Baba Yaga as your song title, fucking hell. Impure Wilhelmina, entire new record available for listening. I love me some Season of Mist, but somehow, somewhere, the quality control there slipped massively. Zelpin, ink deal with Black Lodge Records. This is actually pretty good. Chilean black metal operatives Zelpin have signed with Swedish label Black Lodge Records. The first step in this alliance will be the new release of the remastered edition of the 2020 album Sorkin Zoon. On 30th of July, Zelpin are currently working on new material for the follow-up, which will be released in the not-too-distant future. Again, this came on my radar, not because I'm so cult and grim, but because Jonathan of Selpst shared it on Facebook, and I checked it out, and I was rather impressed. Monster Magnet streaming another cover track prior to tomorrow's release, and by the way, tomorrow would have meant last week, Thursday. Anyways, official release of Monster Magnet's covers album, Better Dystopia. Another track has been unleashed. I've listened to this a couple of times because when I drive to go and fetch my daughter on or every second Friday, it's a good hour and a half, and my girlfriend has great tolerance for the music that I listen to, but it can only take so much death and black metal. So I cranked up the old Monster Magnet album, and it's very good. If you like Monster Magnet, I can strongly recommend that you check it out. You know, it has the typical Monster Magnet vibe. You know, even though they're covers, they've made them sound like Monster Magnet songs, and I think it's very enjoyable. So mark that down. A Better Dystopia, well worth checking out. Hooded Menace announced new album, Share First single. As much as I cussed Season of Mist for Impure Wilhelmina, let me immediately praise them for the release of this. Death Doom formation Hooded Menace are now unveiling the brand new song Blood Ornaments, which is taken from the band's upcoming release, The Tritonus Bell. The album is scheduled for worldwide release on August 27th, 2021. Fortunately, because they're with Season of Mist, I'll be able to get one of these guys on the show, hopefully. This song is fucking brilliant. You know, just the opening riff alone is, you know, already one of the fucking most badass riffs I've heard all year. But I think this is going to be a fantastic record, and this track, Blood Ornaments, is well worth you checking out. So make sure that you do, whether you're a Hooded Menace fan or not. And by the way, as much as I slated Slaughter to Prevail as a fucking shit name for a band, and I truly think that it is, Hooded Menace, that's a name for a band. That's badass. A Pale Horse Named Death detail new studio album. What is curiously absent for me about that Pale Horse Named Death photo there is Johnny Kelly, who I thought was the drummer for the band. But either way, apparently that's not the case. A band who they've always sounded to me very much like a Type O Negative tribute band. And they're not bad, but there is only one Type O Negative. And, you know, frankly, I've kind of never really gotten into a Pale Horse Named Death just for how much I feel like they try and sound like Type O. And Type O, in part, was brilliant because of Pete Steele's personality. You know, the kind of self-deprecating sense of humor that he had, you know, but also the guy's, you know, sense of melody, you know, his sense of, you know, the way that he played bass. Just everything about that band, or everything about him is what made Type O, you know. And then you had the contrast against Johnny's drum style, you know, Kenny's vocals, you know, Kenny's guitaring. There just won't be another band like that. So Pale Horse Named Death, they're a band which if you're desperate for that kind of music is probably worth checking out. But for me, not so much. I just saw a headline there about White Ward. I know that Tim of the Amenta told me to check it out. And I've just never gotten around to it. Every time I listen to it, I've always been distracted by something. But I know that a lot of people say that I should check it out. And also, they're on Deborah and Morty, who are a fucking brilliant label. What else is there? Ancient Wisdom, entire forthcoming album available for streaming. As far as I know, Borgne, who are featured on this episode of Into the Necrosphere, feature a member of Ancient Wisdom. And I know I spoke about this not too long ago. As a matter of fact, I might even have spoken about that headline. Either way, I've checked it out again. It's still not really my thing, but I would still suggest that you do listen to it if you like Ancient Wisdom. Right, let's move on to the Democrats' Guide to Rock Music, Blabberpoo, Fear Factory's Dino Cazares recalls making out with Different Strokes actress Dana Plato. We had a connection. I re-listened to Demanufacture whilst on the road yesterday, and I have to say, it still holds up relatively okay. There's a couple of songs on there that are seriously showing signs of their age. Self-Biased Resistor being one of them. I remember hearing that the first time and thinking it was one of the most wonderful things I'd ever heard in my entire life. But as I've grown older, anything that sounds remotely happy brings me no happiness. So that's, you know, that album, like I said, there's still some masterpieces on there, Piss Christ being one of them. But I will say this about Fear Factory. The first time that I heard Burton sing on stage without the many studio effects that gets his voice sounding the way that it does on album. I liken it to the first time that you walk into your parents' fucking, because it is, if you're a young man, as I was when I heard Burton sing for the first time on I think it was on a Dynamo video, and they were doing, it might have been Leech off of Soul of the New Machine. And you hear his voice breaking like a kid whose balls have just dropped. It is just fucking horrible, because you hear his voice on album and you think, man, this is one of the greatest vocalists ever, and he is not. And Fear Factory, again, as I said, it's just not really my thing anymore. Joey Belladonna looks back on Anthrax's Married with Children appearance. It was a blast. Now, I know I cuss Joey Belladonna at every opportunity, but there's no getting away from it. He was very cool on Among the Living, and I have to say I've really enjoyed these Anthrax videos that they've been doing, where they've kind of been honoring all of the records in the Anthrax discography. I'm curious to see what they're going to say about The Sound of White Noise, Volume 8, and a couple of the later records. But they've just done, at the time that I'm recording this, they've just completed the series for Among the Living, and it was fucking awesome. I mean, even though it featured Corey Taylor, it was still awesome to see. And it did take me back to when I heard it for the first time, because it was brilliant. I remember this Married with Children appearance really well. I'm surprised they're even bringing it up, considering that Married with Children, I think, will probably see every single person that ever starred in it, co-starred, guest featured. All of them will be cancelled at some point because of Married with Children. It is the most politically incorrect show ever, and it was fucking glorious. You know, it's one of those things that they would never, ever make now. And I think, I mean, I need to actually look on YouTube to see whether there's any, you know, millennials react videos, because I know I've seen a couple where millennials react to Seinfeld, and they act like it's, you know, the most, you know, horrific thing ever. And I've seen articles where they talk about Seinfeld being racist and blah blah blah. You ain't seen nothing yet. If you've not watched Married with Children, but I actually recently watched a couple of episodes from some of the earlier seasons, and it is still fucking hysterical. Anyways, so yeah, I remember that. It was awesome to see Anthrax on there as well, you know, back in there. It's really been fun hearing them talk about those old albums. Faith No More's Bill Gould is still happy with Soul Invictus album. I'm also happy with it. I think it is a fucking fantastic record. It does take me back to, you know, a pretty shit time in my life. That album came out right around the time that I was getting my divorce from my daughter's mum. So, you know, it accompanied me on many a car trip, you know, where I was, you know, something shit had happened and I was, you know, busy smoldering about it. But yeah, great record, and I think, in my opinion, one of Mike Patton's finest vocal moments. Really good. French president attends heavy metal concert at his palace after YouTube bet. French president and absolute dimwit Emmanuel Macron attended a private concert by the parody metal band Ultra Vomit in the gardens of his LSE presidential palace as part of a YouTube video by two comedians. They should have had him attend a fucking Blut aus Nord show, you know, or Borgne, who, even though they're from Switzerland, I'm sure they could have crossed the border. Emmanuel Macron, of course, alongside Angela Merkel, two of the biggest fucking idiots on the face of the earth, and two people who, through their insane... I mean, I don't even know what to call it. Because I wouldn't call it misguided, because what they've done to Europe is so fucking insidious that it can't be anything other than a fucking conspiracy between the two of them. But either way, abysmal. Absolute fucking turd. It should have been a Guar show, and they should have ended it off with him coming on stage and being the focal point of one of the gags. Here is a new fan video of Graves of Pantera legends Dimebag and Vinnie Paul. A bit morose. I don't know if I would go all the way. Firstly, I don't see the point to visiting anybody's grave. I mean, all these people that line up at Jimi Hendrix's grave and take a selfie, and, you know, line up at Kurt Cobain's grave, or line up at, you know, the Abbott brothers' graves. I mean, what the fuck is the point of that? I think you know, I'm not somebody who will, you know, queue up for a tourist attraction at the best of times. I just think this is fucking stupid. But anyway, you know, I will still say, I've said it many times, we'll say it again, Pantera are fucking brilliant, and you know, you can like them or you cannot dislike them, but this new, again, it's a millennial thing, and I'm sounding like a cranky old man here moaning about millennials, but yeah, this trend that I see among certain contingents of the you know, of the metal community to run these guys down at a moment's notice, I think is fucking pathetic. There's a guy named, I think he's called Carcass Noob or something like that on Twitter. He's a great example of that. One day I'll go through his Twitter feed as part of the news section, and we can talk about, you know, we can pick apart some of the fucking drivel that he posts. But, you know, he's one of the people that, you know, at every given opportunity will, you know, say something or speak ill of Pantera. The other day he had a post about how amazingly creative the queer black metal scene is, and how the rest of the scene is stuck in the past. Which is such a sweeping, idiotic statement to make. But the other thing that I don't understand is, why must everything be part of some fucking woke fringe scene for it to be acceptable to these people? You know, I don't give a fuck what the sexual preferences of somebody in a band is. I mean, are you going to call, you know, Gall or Gorgoroth queer black metal because because Gaul is gay. It's just so fucking stupid. And then, not only is, according to this simpleton, everything in the queer black metal scene wonderful, but everything else is terrible. I don't get people like that. I read a thing recently about the new He-Man, and again, everybody who grew up in my generation. I was born in 1980. If you were in this generation, He-Man was one of the greatest things on the face of the earth. And I will admit, I was quite excited about the announced He-Man reboot, because I figured something I can watch with my daughter that's not going to be terrible. However, I hear now that imbecile Kevin Smith has ensured that the new He-Man is as woke as it gets. The rumors are swirling right now that apparently Skeletor, at some point during this new series, gets a hold of the Sword of Power, or whatever the hell it's called. He turns into Skelegard, defeats He-Man, and then it's up to Teela to lead the resistance and free Eternia from the forces of Skelegard. But the best thing about it is that not only does Teela, when she's when she hasn't yet transformed, look like a man, but when she finally apparently gets hold of the Sword of Power, she holds it aloft to Castle Grayskull, and she becomes She-Man. I swear to God, yet again, I've no problem with anybody's preferences, or with anybody's, I'm even happy to call somebody by their pronouns. I'm not, as much as I lean towards the conservative side of things politically, I don't give a fuck about any of this stuff. I've always said I'm, fiscally conservative. Socially, I don't even think I'm liberal. I do not care. I just don't want anything that anybody does to, be of any concern to me, to have any bearing on my life whatsoever. You can do whatever the fuck it is you want to do, but again, can nothing be left alone? Must He-Man be turned woke? Every single thing that they do, where they revisit an 80s franchise, Ghostbusters, all the main characters had to be changed to women. And lo and behold, the movie failed, and then they blamed that on, bigots or bigotry. I'm pretty sure that, no one's going to buy these fucking shit He-Man toys, because let's be frank, an 11-year-old boy, well, actually, younger, 7-year-old boy doesn't give a shit about any of their fucking stupid political stuff, and they're not going to care about any of the agenda and any of the bullshit that they try and push with it. But so He-Man will fail, and then again they'll turn around and go, oh well, it's just because the world wasn't ready for it. They're filled with bigots. And Kevin Smith, I mean, I've said before, I think he's a fucking absolute dipshit, and he's proven it once again. He's one of the most. He's a prime example of why I don't get on with, certain fringes on the left, because he's such a fucking self-congratulatory, pompous prick who has done literally one good movie in his whole career, Clerks. Everything else is complete and utter shit. It reads like a fucking 13-year-old trying to be funny, and combined with, these kind of bovine attempts at comedy. He combines that with a teenage wank fantasy, because that's exactly the way he writes female characters. I mean, that's part of why I dislike his movies so much. Is all of his female characters are written like they come from the fucking sex-addled mind of a 12-year-old. It's just, oh god, I can't stand him. I think that, again, somebody should fucking load him up on a plane and airdrop him above the Congo, so that the cannibals can get him. Anyways, let's move on. Tommy Klafutos doesn't dwell on the fact that he played for Black Sabbath on the band's final tour. Fuck off. Exodus's cancer-stricken drummer vows to play with his bandmates at Psycho Las Vegas. If I'm walking, I'm drumming. I met Tom Hunting back in 2005. I think I might have said this actually on a previous news segment. Great guy, and I'm glad to see that he's apparently doing pretty well. There was another photo posted of him with his hair all cut, looking like a respectable gentleman. Yeah, man, I'm glad that they discovered this cancer, soon enough, and I really hope that he gets better soon. He was nothing but a total gentleman and a great dude when I met him. Me, him, and Gary Holt got a little liquored up in a hotel in London, and that was a very, very grand memory of mine. Fear Factory is talking about a joint world tour with Static X. That apparently is what passes for news now. There's another article here where it was basically something along the lines of Metallica is hinting at a 30th anniversary remaster of a fucking Black Album. I mean, how many more remasters do they want to do? And why is just a fucking tweet now, worthy of a full-on news story? Smashing Pumpkins' Billy Corgan, when I was younger, I was considered not good-looking. Mate, you're older now, and you are still not considered good-looking. You look like a fucking scrotum sack. Dave Grohl to co-host Monday's The Tonight Show starring Jimmy Fallon. Jimmy Fallon, another fucking napalm candidate. Absolute penis. There's the article. Metallica appears to be teasing 30th anniversary deluxe reissue of Black Album. Yawn. Anthrax's Charlie Benante. We don't want our opening bands to sound like shit. To their credit, he's actually 100% right. As much as... So when I saw them for the first time with John Bush, which, again, fantastic show, and again, such a surprise as well. They had a awful band called Kill to This opening for them. But, like I said, to Charlie's credit, Kill to This did sound outstanding. I mean, the sound was great. What was coming out of the speakers was not so great. Psychosexual, featuring ex-Five Finger Death Punch drummer Jeremy Spencer, The Torture Never Stops lyric video. Psychosexual is, again, one of those fucking band names that's on a par with Slaughter to Prevail, Dreams of Nightmares, and all the other utter crap that, frankly should be fucking banned from the metal scene. See Corey Taylor in the Dead Dead's music video for Murder Ballad 2. He looks like with this new fucking bleach blonde hairstyle that he's got. Again, why a man in his mid-40s would consider doing that, I have no idea. But anyway, I'm sure his mind-melted imbecile fans will clutch onto that like it's the latest and greatest fashion trend. New Fear Factory singer won't be announced for a while. This I didn't get either. So Dino Cazares is talking here about how they might get a man, they might get a woman. They don't have to sound like Burton. I mean, surely they have to sound a little bit like Burton. Burton's got a very unique, and distinct vocal style, and it is kind of Fear Factory's music is written around that. It's not like it's written around Dino's riffs, because if it were, he's infinitely replaceable, because fucking anybody who's played guitar for 6 months can play down tune 8-string and basically like a 2 or 3 note tap, just complete bush league nonsense. Like I said, the band is built around Burton, so to not get somebody that sounds like him, I've no idea why you would think that. But then again, Dino has proven to be not the sharpest tool in the shed. Megadeth's David Ellefson deactivates Twitter account amid sex video scandal. Again, I'm not going to talk about this anymore. Me and Dallas spoke about that and had a bit of a laugh, but the laughter is over now. I hope he pulls through and everything's all right for him. Ted Nugent, Why I Won't Tour in 2021. I think that Borrie or somebody at Blabbermouth has a hard-on for Ted Nugent. I mean, I literally think somebody has a crush on the dude, because they are more obsessed with him than a slated ex-girlfriend that goes onto their boyfriend's Facebook page every day to say, see, I think this post that he put up there is a cryptic one about me. Anthrax's Charlie Benante says Butcher Baby's Carla Harvey turned him down when he first asked her out. Again, to Charlie Benante's credit, Carla Harvey is a fucking stunning woman. And, Charlie's a nice guy, and I'm sure he's very charming. He will have to be to have pitched woo to a lady like this. Kudos to him. Speaking of cryptic messages on social media, a personal great example of passive-aggressive social media nonsense, and this is very random, so you might want to skip past this next 60 seconds if you don't want to hear something totally random. But when I was dating before I met my current girlfriend, I was I think she thought that we were supposed to meet up for over the weekend. I just had had a couple of busy weekends and a couple of busy weeks, so wanted to chill out. Go on Facebook one Saturday evening, and I see this post that this girl that I was, seeing on and off had put up on Facebook. Never make him number one in your life when you're when you're not number one in his. So I send her a message. I was like, is this supposed to be about me? No, it's not. It's just something interesting I saw. Anyway, I know it's probably the most random thing to throw into this segment, but I thought it was fucking funny. I still laugh about it to this day. There's nothing else really on here worth talking about, so I am going to cut it short. One thing, Mr. Bungle covers Van Halen's Loss of Control. Pretty cool cover. But man, why did they not do Ain't Talking About Love or Running with the Devil? Because those are the two best Van Halen songs. And, I was talking earlier about Metallica covers being shit, but there are a couple of people, even the, biggest moron of our time, Corey Taylor, who just did a phenomenal job of Ain't Talking About Love, as well as Running with the Devil. And it would have been very cool to hear them do that. So on that note, I am done with news for this week. And guess what else? It also means that I'm done with the show for this week. Next week, I'm going to be talking to Gavin, the organizer of the Damnation Festival. And like I said, I've got a whole host of great guests coming up. I am recording this on a Monday morning, so my week is just about to get started. If you've listened to this on a Tuesday and you've listened all the way to the very end, number one, you're a fucking badass. Number two, I hope you've had a great start to your week. I am going to finish off the show with a band that Dallas and I spoke about, Sanctuary. Like I said on my conversation with him, I go through these phases where I just become completely and utterly obsessed with Nevermore and Sanctuary for about 2 weeks. Remind myself that Warrell Dane was one of the greatest vocalists to ever grab a microphone in metal, and he is very sorely missed. This song, in my opinion, is one of his brightest moments in a host of many. Off of an album called The Year the Sun Died, this is Sanctuary with I Am Low. Thank you very, very much, everybody, for tuning in, and I will see you all next week.
Tonight, and the truth is the same. I'll be great tomorrow within this brief space of elegance. I am low. The creator seems bitter and strange. If we pray through these hopeless and endless days, will Morpheus take us far away? When nothing is clear, there is nothing to fear, there is nothing left to follow. When contradiction has killed all hope, there is nothing between me and the end of a rope. I am high today, but I still feel the shame. If I fly tomorrow, will anyone remember my worthless name? If we conquer the years and fight through the days, there is nothing stay.